Hi there, my name is Jeejay Maccariella, and I am a music director and keyboardist from Toledo, Ohio. This is my video submission for the two pieces that I was sent, and in it I'm going to detail some of my notes and thoughts about some of the stuff that I heard. So I'm going to be starting with the piece, The Look of Love. And I just wanted to note for this piece, I'm going to be focusing more on the soloists as opposed to the ensemble members, just because it was a little more difficult to hear them on the recording, and also since we don't have the full ensemble, there's not much I can do to work on blend and stuff like that. So I will just focus on the soloists. So starting with our female soloists, their tone and phrasing for this whole opening verse was very lovely. They have a great vibrato and sense of phrasing and style. One thing I would say right off the bat is to make sure that the accuracy of the opening pitch, that C sharp, the look, that perfect fourth interval is very strong so that it sets the key center for the rest of the piece. Other than that, I thought they did a great job on that opening. Moving along to the male soloists, opening at measure 146. I would love to hear a little more confidence on that opening interval as well. And with this particular soloist, I would actually try and work to get the tone of their voice out of their throat a little bit and more into the mask. So going from the of love, the look, to a more pingy and resonant sound, the look of love is saying so much more. Something like that in terms of the tone, just to get it out of the throat a little bit, like I said. I thought the two soloists had a fantastic blend at 153. Those voices complement each other very well. I just heard a little bit of spread in the half note size, so specifically on "and what my heart has," that has was just a little off. I think it might have been a little under. So we would just work to make sure that those half steps are very close together and just kind of smiling through those phrases to help with that, with those pitches. Moving on to how long I have waited, I would advise that the soloist should unify their ornamentation between the both of them, so as to not kind of draw attention away from one or the other. So for instance, our female soloist did a little flip before "how long," and that kind of took away from the unity of the phrase. And so I would just advise against doing that flip unless both are going to do it, or like I said, we agree that nobody does it and we just sing that line through as it is written. And then through this, the pitch was just a little under, and so I would advise the singers again to kind of smile through this and really think on top of the note to kind of avoid that. The female soloist going into verse 2, I'm looking at bar 164. I love that vowel on you, and the phrasing to get into the verse and moving that kind of overall contour back down was very good. It's just that same perfect fourth interval, the look. It was just a little bit weak and undefined, I guess is a better word. And so I'd work to really again reestablish that key center on look. Moving forward, I would advise our male soloist in bar 168. Look, that time. I would advise that they start their breath spinning a little bit before their entrance, and they set that soft palate. It just seemed a little jarring, that specific entrance. And so I think that preparing it a little better, starting the air to move before they actually begin the note, that will help the entrance to have a little more sensitivity. However, I loved how they sang that F sharp on time. It was a beautiful tone, and I'd actually work with that specific singer to see if we can try and transfer that specific tone through the rest of their singing on this specific song, again to kind of get it a little bit out of the throat and more into the mask. And finally, I would work with that male soloist to try and modify that final vowel on erase, to define it a little better and get it to a modified place where it works with their voice a little better. So maybe an and then modifying closer to an if we need to, so to and that will also help with the tuning there, because once they posted the note, it was a little bit unsteady, just moving forward with that pitch. So really locking in that pitch with that. And those are all of my notes for that first cut, Look of Love. Congratulations to both soloists. They sound fantastic overall. And I'm going to now move on to One Less Bell to Answer. So our female soloist has a very sensitive opening at bar 7. They sing with a lot of nuance, and I love the accent that they bring, which is to avoid the diphthongs. I specifically noticed that on fra. Egg to fry, one less man. I thought that was a really nice choice with that whole piece. However, I would advise with that specific phrase, egg to fry, that perfect fifth was just a little bit off, and so I'd advise that we could fix the tuning on that specific jump just a little bit, because it was a bit under. Moving on to bar 17. First of all, I loved the male soloist's entrance at bar 16. Cry! Beginning that plosive before the pitch actually comes in really added a lot there, and I think it was a nice choice. Our female soloist delays what is written a little bit, so at bar 17 it's, oh, I should be happy, but what they actually sang was, oh, I should be happy, and the I should be happy kind of came on the downbeat. And a similar choice happened not too shortly after on Did She Go, which I'm looking for right now. Actually, I'll come back to that. But I was just wondering if that was a composer's choice. Or actually, sorry, I found it right here. The other section that I'm referring to is just a bar later. Is I Only Know. So I only know that since, and since was on the downbeat, even though that no is written to be on the downbeat. I only know that since he left. And so again, I was wondering if that was a composer's choice or if that was an artist's choice, and if they were both kind of approved, let's say. Now I'm going to move on to measures 19 and 20. No, I already talked about that. Our refrain, getting into that, the E major section at bar 22, sounds very lovely, and I believe that the singers blend very well together through all these kind of tricky key changes, because there's quite a few of them, and the blend between the two sounds very nice. Looking at bar 30, I believe our male soloist could back off just a little bit so that it doesn't detract from the female soloist's melody line. I believe the male soloist there is kind of just doing a counter line, a lilting type of phrase. And I also wanted to just point out the rhythm in the middle of bar 31. And each day crying one. Just, I think there was 3 quarter notes and then an eighth note, as opposed to 2 quarter notes and then an eighth note, as is written. I'd also advise our female soloist to have maybe a little more supported vowel, and maybe some modification to it at bar 31 on crying, keeping with that diphthongless style that we're doing as well. It just seemed a little bit harsh with the current way that it was sang. And I'd also advise the female soloist to cut out a little earlier, because the note is only written as a quarter note, but I believe they held it for almost 3 beats or maybe the entire bar, and that just kind of stepped on what the male soloist was doing there. In bar 36, the male soloist had a beautiful placement, and the passion and excitement really came through, but on this specific recording, it kind of covered what was happening or took my attention away from what was happening with the female soloist line. So I'd just advise to maybe have a little more sensitivity. I know it's a higher note, but they sound like they have great control over their voice and that part of their mix. So moving on to bar 39, I'd love the soloist to agree on a vowel for the held note love. I believe our male soloist was closer to an and our female soloist was closer to an ah. So if we could kind of do some finagling to blend the two, I think that would have a more lovely held note and kind of have a better quality to that kind of cadence. The following section, immediately at bar 41, there was this choice to have a soft plosive since he went away. Right, no plosive there. The male soloist repeated that, and then the female soloist did since he went away on the last one. And I personally liked that choice. It seemed very intentional and directed, so I wouldn't change that if I had heard that in a performance setting, unless there was a directive that they wanted to keep all the plosives and the consonants consistent. I could hear both ways, but I did recognize that choice and I liked what I heard. Again, our female soloist has fantastic sensitivity on this section between 46 through 49, starting with a chair is still a chair. There were just some pitch issues getting back into the following section, and it's a tough key change, so I would work with the female soloist to make sure that they're hearing that A sharp in the accompaniment just a little clearer, and that would improve the overall pitch accuracy of that section, because it just didn't seem to stabilize until the end of bar 51 or the beginning of bar 52, just because, again, of how jarring of a change that is. Our female soloists also lost their accent between 51 and 55. They went into a more poppy inflection, specifically on when I climb the stair. That'd be if there was an accent, but they said them when I climb the stair is kind of what was recorded. And so I'd advise to kind of keep the accent that has been solidified throughout the entire piece. I am jumping to bar 60 now, and there was another rhythmic question that I had. So bar 60 into 61, our female soloist combined I still run as opposed to I still run, and I'm not sure if that soloist jumping the gun 2 beats ahead caused our male soloist to then jump 2 beats ahead as well, because that resolution to fry, which is a G natural, just sounded a little out of place with the accompaniment, because like I said, it came on beat 3 of bar 62 as opposed to the downbeat of 63. So I would just look at that section and make sure that we're singing it as written, and being very specific with those rhythms there. When we get to, I think that these singers have a great blend, and when we're singing together through this following section, I think it's beautiful. Same thing on bar 66, similar note I gave before with love, that held note to unify the vowels a little more. And I just think a little more support. It sounded like our female soloist was getting just a little tired at this point in the piece, so their tone was a little thinner. And the following since in bar 68 was also just a little, it just wasn't as spot on with the pitch as it was very shortly after in bar 70. That was a lot. And again, I know that's because it's just after a long held note, and they could only probably get a short catch breath. But that's one section that I'd work on to get a little more strength and support. In bar 72, I'd advise our female soloist to maybe use a head, like a more head / mix supported sound there, as opposed to bringing the chest into it at all, because our male soloist is singing such a lovely and covered mix on that high C above the staff. And I'd also advise our female soloist to have a closer half step. So, all I do, keeping that half step very close there, as it was just a little spread. And finally, on the final note at bar 75, our male soloist's pitch wavered just a little bit in anticipation of the slide up. So I would just advise them to keep a very steady tone and very steady and stable breath there to make sure that the slide up is not kind of given away in any way. And that was all the notes that I had. I wanted to let you know that I am currently not available to begin a July 14th contract, as I am working as a music director for an original show that my mentor Susan Draus is writing called Reunion, that is getting its first workshops and performances in Denver, Colorado. Then immediately following that, I have accepted a contract to work with the Arvada Center as their associate music director, programmer, and rehearsal pianist for their production of Waitress. And following that, I will be music directing at Silver Dollar City until the end of the year. But my availability to work with NCL and in this position would begin on January 1st. And I'd love to express again how interested I am in working in this capacity and in this position, as I believe that my experience fits the job requirements very well, and I believe that I'd be a great fit for your company. And so I just wanted to thank you for shortlisting me on the list of applications. I know this video ran about 16 minutes, kind of wasn't sure what you were thinking in terms of depth of notes, so hope I didn't ramble in any way, but I hope to hear from you soon, and thank you so much for your time. Take care.